Hello, Contrarians listeners, Contrarians fans, watchers, all of you out there checking out this video. Here we are in a special warm up for our latest episode, dark, obscure Jim Carrey vehicle that you probably didn't know existed. So hopefully, you just go and watch it. It's like 90 minutes or so. Uh, or two, you don't care. You just listen to us talk about it, and maybe that will either inspire you to watch it or just make you go, I'm good. Thank you, Contrarians, for saving me 90 minutes.
I mean, it is a 0%er.
It is a 0%er. So if you're one of those people that just takes pride on watching movies that are being reviled by Rotten Tomatoes and humanity, just at
This is up your
large.
alley.
Yeah, and this is Jim Carrey. Who doesn't like Jim Carrey? Like I said, it's a rarity. So it's not even a B-side. What do you call this, Alex? This is like an unreleased, unpublished track.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like the albums that are only released like in Germany, or the band you like. It's the obscure live album that you can't really find anywhere on physical media. And you asked who doesn't like Jim Carrey, and I would say Jerry Lawler.
All right, so yeah, this is the Polish single that ever made it to the US.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about Dark Crimes, 0% Rotten Tomatoes. You know how this works. I have a few Rotten Tomatoes quotes, rotten as a 0%er. Alex has some trivia, and in between, we're going to talk about Josh Gad and play the Josh Gad Minute. Let's get to it.
Why do we have to do that for this movie, man?
Because that's just what we've decided. We can't back out of the Josh Gad Minute for.
I guess there's only like 2 roles, 3 if we want to do like a. Yeah, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
This is the one where Josh Gad loses his innocence. So just brace yourselves. All right, so I got 4 quotes. I'm going to start with Ken Jaworowski from the New York Times, a top critic, who says, "A good story gets stuck in a puddle of mood in Dark Crimes, a film that strays from its fascinating source, a real-life murder case, into a less successful attempt at noir." Noir, Alex, did you feel like you watching a film noir?
No.
It didn't even cross my mind. I mean, I guess you could call it in the sense that it's a crime. It's pushing it to call Charlotte Gainsbourg a femme fatale, but I guess that would be the role. And Jim Carrey does play this sort of cynical, jaded investigator. So there's that.
The pacing and the way this stylized presentation of this, I don't like you said, at no point did I feel like I was watching a film noir.
Yeah, no, I mean, sure, we'll argue against you, Jaworowski. Tell me what else you got, but I also like that it gets stuck in a puddle of mood.
That's a good one. That's a good line.
Yeah, good turn of phrase.
For a second, I thought like your English being my second language thing was kicking in. I was like, did you mean to say mud? And then I like rethought the sentence. I was like, ooh, that was clever.
No, I wouldn't shortchange Ken like that. Roger Moore from Movie Nation says, "Glum, degrading."
Bond?
Maybe. I don't know. This actually has a picture of Roger Moore here, and he looks more like Gabe from The Office.
Is it a rare photo of Sean Connery signed by Roger Moore?
No, this guy has hair. Roger Moore from Movie Nation says, "Glum, degrading, and dull exploitation film featuring Jim Carrey as, quotation marks, the last honest cop in Poland." Degrading? I hate to say that this might be correct. It's the right use of the word.
Yeah, I kept, insert the Bobby Fish sound drop here. Where's the lie? Because I don't see it there.
Yeah, this movie, I don't think anybody escapes unscathed when it comes to degradation. I guess the only thing is we don't ever see Jim Carrey naked. I mean, we know that he's naked at some points in the movie, but we never, no Jim Carrey nudity, which I think was the only thing that this movie didn't touch on.
Thankfully.
I guess, I mean, we've seen him naked before in other movies, so.
Oh, that's true. He's naked in Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
Yeah, he finds out about Finkel and Einhorn. But still, nowhere near as unsettling as him climaxing. This is.
Yes, a different kind of degradation. Next, Whitney Seibold from IGN Movies says this common cop becomes obsessed dynamic is not new. It can be seen in just about every episode of Law and Order: Criminal Intent. Alex, I've never seen a single episode of any of the Law and Orders.
Like the amount of movies you could pick from, like immediately comes to mind is Seven. Like you could just easily say like one of the most accessible cop dramas of the '90s is right there in front of you.
Why would you go to TV? Why would you go to Law and Order? Which, granted, I'm only familiar with the classic version. You know, Sam Waterstone and Jerry Orbach. They are nothing like Jim Carrey in this movie.
No.
Even if you were to give me the special episode in which one of them becomes obsessed with a criminal, it is night and day with what this movie is trying to do. So I don't know, maybe there's Law and Order spin-offs that are a little more edgy when it comes to that stuff, but I can't imagine any of them being anything like Dark Crimes. So, Mr. Seibold, I don't think you're
Zodiac
correct.
is right there. Yeah, there's
Just do a movie. Yeah, several movies. And we're going to close with Brian Orndorff from Blu-ray.com, who says Dark Crimes has Carrey, who seems like he's auditioning for an HBO procedural, but the rest of the movie is motionless when it isn't baffling. HBO procedural, like, what are we talking about? True Detective?
Yeah, I guess. I know that was one of the quotes that like, or one of the like flyaway thoughts or the elevator pitch is, I'm sorry, that's the phrase I was looking for. It was like, this will be, you know, like True Detective, and, you know, maybe get Jim Carrey on the map for that. But as someone who is about to finish a watch through of The Sopranos, like I take umbrage with that because let's not forget they had The Sopranos and Sex and the City at the same time. Two of the greatest shows of all time. And was it 6 Feet Under Oz that you liked?
6 Feet Under. I've never seen Oz, but I mean,
okay,
it kind of fits,
I knew it was
I
one
think.
of them. Because that was the same time period as well, right?
Yep.
Sopranos and Sex and City.
Yeah,
they were on fire.
The HBO Renaissance. It's just,
yeah, there you go. I was about to say, granted, that was a decade before this, but at the same time, come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, I could see. Well, I don't know that I would sit down and watch 10 episodes, 10 1-hour episodes of Jim Carrey and Dark Crimes every Sunday night on HBO.
I was about to say they're back with Last of Us, so you gotta Jim Carrey's Last of Us. Oh man, imagine this spread out over like 10 hours. This movie,
just every Sunday night, you walk away from it and just let's go take a shower and let's hope it gets better.
Like, that's the thing that actually would have worked, like, because by the time you get to like, let's say it's 10 episodes, right? You hang on till the 4th episode with like it's gonna get better, and then when the 4th episode's done, you're like, well, god damn it, I'm almost halfway there, so I have to see how this goes. That's how they would have got you with something like this.
You spend 10 episodes just kind of like, but surely they're gonna get the bad guy at least. All of this will be worth it.
And then episode 3 is a complete side story with Nick Offerman, and when it's over, you're just like bawling your eyes out.
You just stick around to see if there's another one-off in the future. Yeah, episode 3 is about his assistant, you know, the guy that follows Jim Carrey everywhere in just his home life, and how he has a beautiful wife and daughter that he shields from the complete opposite of the Jim Carrey character. And then at the end, they get killed.
And he actually eats pierogies, unlike fucking this alleged Polishman. Jim Carrey eating bacon and eggs.
Speaking of Jim Carrey's assistant, it's time for the Josh Gad Minute. Is that the go-to for Josh Gad? Like, is that where we put him, or do you want to be a little more risque in what do you want to be?
Kozlov.
Oh my god, thank you, Alex. I thought you were gonna hide between maybe the one safe character in the movie, but yeah, Josh Gad is.
I mean, you could flip this movie and make it have a different tone and twinge if you replaced like Charlotte Gainsbourg and made that a male character with Josh Gad.
Okay.
Like I said, it would change a lot of the like intent and meaning in some of the aspects of this film. But yeah, man, fuck it. Let's just go all in and make him Kozlov and get crazy evil Josh Gad. You know, I think, has he been the bad guy in any live action movie?
I think the closest he came was, you know, he played LeFou in the Beauty and the Beast live action remake.
Okay.
He's kind of a bad guy there. He's a bad guy sidekick.
But
I
he's
mean,
he's also like comedic relief,
yes. No,
right?
we
Okay.
haven't seen a perverted Josh Gad. That's just like a
Well,
sexual predator, and
that's the way to do it.
it's
Is we make him Kozlov here.
all right.
Like imagine that interrogation scene where the fluorescent light is like swinging back and forth.
Yeah,
Carrey and Gad. It's like Pacino and De Niro.
it's a Ledger and Bale, but
Yes.
without the makeup, without the cowl. It's just directly 1-on-1. I like it, although I have to say I would at least devote 15-20 minutes in the think tank of like, okay, what if he does replace Charlotte Gainsbourg? Because that doesn't mean that I mean, we can still have the Jim Carrey sex scene,
Oh
Carrey
yeah,
and
yeah.
Gad,
It
and so
it can be the same movie. I mean, it was 2016 when this movie was, but 2015. It's not like this is.
and it was Europe. We were ready for this.
Yeah.
We were ready for Jim Carrey and Josh Gad to get it on. So
Yeah.
all right, maybe just think about it for the remake. Jim Carrey can come back. It's still good. It'll be set in America.
As we kind of touch on in the episode, there's a very real chance Jim Carrey's not aware of the reception this movie has. So he'd be like, "Yeah, I'll be back. Let's do it again."
He just moved on. They wrapped shooting, and then he went on to be in Sonic or whatever.
He may have never even watched this. He's just like, "All right, my work here is done, but you didn't do anything." He's like, "Didn't I?"
All right, Alex, what trivia were you able to just dig up when it comes to dark crimes?
Well, just from watching the movie, I learned that Jim Carrey does not say "alrighty then" when he comes, which I was kind of disappointed about. Not much for this one. It's a strange film, and I mean that in every sense of the word. And this isn't something you or I picked. One of our wonderful patrons, Nerd Revert, brought this on the table for us. So you can find the general information about where it was filmed and the original intent behind it.
Was it Canada substituting for Poland?
No. It was Poland. It was filmed over a month, I think, over 32 days in Krakow, Poland. So Jim Carrey got a free vacation out of this. A budget of 3.8 million euros, which in today's dollar translates to about 4.1 million. And the box office return in America was an unsettling $21,216. But we delve a bit deeper into this in the episode. It was also released through DirecTV's on-demand service the week it was released in theaters, because DirecTV got their finger in the pie at some point in the game. Morgan Freeman turned down the role of Tadic, who is the lead role, the detective that Jim Carrey plays. Don't know how that would have worked at all, even less so than what we ended up with.
That's a completely different type of sex scene. Are you ready for Morgan Freeman to look you straight in the eyes?
No.
He achieves climax.
He would just tell you, like, I'm nearing the point of no return. As Julio touched on earlier, this film is based on the article True Crimes, a postmodern murder mystery published by David Gran in The New Yorker on February 11, 2008. The article reports the strange true crime story of Christian Bala, a writer arrested for the murder of a Polish businessman. The detective called Jacek from the Warklaw Police Department in Poland investigated the crime without any success, but 3 years later reopened the case after having read a crime novel because the book featured descriptions of a murder that were too similar to be coincidence. And it's obviously exactly what this movie is.
It's pretty wild for a police officer to come back and be like, we got it wrong. Why? Because Stephen King says so. And he has just said, I mean, it has to have been really specific for them to really take it seriously.
Yeah. This is something that was of interest, and Julio and I kind of try to figure out some of the potential motives or motivations behind it in the actual episode, so we won't go too deep into it here. But the Polish Film Institute contributed about $500,000 to the budget of this movie, which obviously would signify at least that they thought this was like their chance to have a movie that stands toe-to-toe with the
rest of Jim Carrey's filmography,
the crime giants of the world. And they might have thought this was going to be their 7. They're like, this is it. This is Jim Carrey's orgasm is our what's in the box. We got this in the bag right here, man.
Or somebody had a lot of money to launder. And like, what is it? Movie business? Sure, let's do it. I think that's the plot of the first season of Get Shorty. So it's it's happening out there. There's some movies I think where
That's
that's just the reason why they exist, because
oh yeah. There's numerous stories of production companies of the 60s, 70s, and even into the 80s that were meant just to like wash cash and like, here you go, keep it coming. Not to accuse our fine friends in Poland of anything
look, there's
mentioned out of the
crime
line.
everywhere. There's crime bosses everywhere, and there's crime bosses that are movie enthusiasts everywhere. I think it's been so long since I watched the first season of Get Shorty, but I think that that's kind of like the funny thing is that it starts as a money laundering enterprise, but then kind of like in the movie, some of the people that are like some of the criminals are actually movie fans, and so they really get
Yeah.
into it, and it becomes less about this conflict about like we have to launder the money versus, oh, we want to make a movie that's actually good and does well. A lot more lighthearted than, of course, anything that happens in Dark Crimes. So do not be
Yes.
misguided.
And I was about to say, like, that's I just watched Drive again over the weekend, and that's when Albert Brooks has that line about like in the 80s he made like real smut. I can't remember what like the whole thing is, but he talks about like he basically like ran a production company that he laundered money through to make like grindhouse movies, and like the line he ends on it is one critic called them European. He's so proud of that. that's Dark Crimes right there.
There's a Polish gangster that proudly displays the poster for Dark Crimes in his living room.
Yes.
It's just
That's the thing. Like
centerpiece.
this is like an episode of The Sopranos in the sense of like you can see like someone from the Polish mob is like Christopher Moltisanti, who thinks they have like this fucking just untapped, like this is gonna be the next Titanic on my hands as I have this movie Dark Crimes, and just knows nothing about it, and then pushes it and goes to the screening and is like looking around at everybody, like waiting for everyone to like join in and applause, and it just doesn't happen.
It's
But
just The Sopranos meets Entourage. Speaking of HBO shows that made a mark.
it's funny you say that because one of my notes that I pulled up right when you said the word entourage, my eyes locked on that said blatantly misogynistic. It's fitting. But I think as far as trivia goes, there's really not too much that we can tell you that's going to be of interest to kind of hook you and bring you into the episode. So I will say some of these topics we've touched on, Julio and I really deep dive in the episode and kind of try to process our thoughts in real time. And what I can tell you is this is an incredibly strange film that Jim Carrey really gives a true performance to, and that's most of the episode is Julio and I trying to figure out what his motivation was for giving such like a really, sincere performance to a movie like this. And Charlotte Gainsbourg as well is really excellent in this, and it's a very, very strange movie that I don't think Julio and I can properly preview here. It's more of one of those that you kind of have to watch and then process your emotions in real time as they come out of your brain and your mouth.
But again, it's not a fun movie, so do not go into this expecting the usual Jim Carrey drama. Because I mean, we've seen Jim Carrey dramas before, but they're not as grim and downbeat as this.
Very, very heavy on sexual assault, brutal violence. The crimes are based in misogyny, so yeah, it's not strange in the way that like Bad Santa is a strange movie. It's strange in a very like in the darker sense of the word.
Yes, the crimes, as the title says, are dark. So be ready for that. But watch the movie or don't watch it if it's not your cup of tea. That's fine. You can still enjoy the episode because we do the full recap and we do our best to be positive, and then we tell you how we really feel. That's how it goes. Coming up next, swinging to the complete opposite side of the fence, we're going to be doing a movie that Alex covered in a quick video review a while ago, and now it's getting the full Contrarians treatment on the main feed. Alex, what is this called?
Riders of Justice.
Yes, thank you. I was like, Mads Mikkelsen. That's all I had in my head. Riders of Justice, super fresh on the Tomatometer. So we'll be saying mean things about it, and then we'll tell you how we really feel. So get ready for that as well. Thank you for checking out the video. Thank you for checking out the podcast, and we'll talk to you again soon.